Hello everyone and welcome back to Super English Talks. My name is Jara and I will be your host today. If this is the first time you are watching one of our videos, let me quickly explain. On this channel, we upload a brand new English learning video every single day. Our goal is to help you learn English faster and in a way that feels easy and natural. In today's lesson, you are not only going to practice your listening skills, but you will also improve your speaking skills and grow your vocabulary. This is an advanced English fluency masterclass, and in this class, we are going to look at useful techniques and practice exercises that can help you move from an intermediate level, B1, all the way to an advanced level, C2, in English. We will work with real-life examples that show you how to expand your vocabulary, make your sentences sound smooth and natural, and use strong, advanced expressions that show confidence. These skills will be helpful in many situations, whether you are speaking in a professional meeting, writing important emails or messages, or just having a casual chat with your friends. By using these advanced tools, you'll sound more confident, clear, and natural in English. By the end of this video, you will not only understand how to use advanced English in your daily life, but you will also know how to practice in a way that helps you improve step by step until you reach the highest level. Before we start, make sure you subscribe to our channel and also click on the bell icon so you don't miss any of our future English learning lessons. Now get your pen and paper ready because we're going to start. When we think about moving from a B1 level to a C2 level in English, the very first thing we need to talk about is vocabulary. Vocabulary is like the building blocks of fluency. Without enough words, we cannot fully express our ideas, we cannot describe our feelings well, and we cannot take part in advanced conversations easily. At the B1 level, you already know the basics. You can introduce yourself, talk about your day, and share your opinions in simple sentences. But at the C2 level, you must go further. You need to learn how to shape your words into clear, rich, and flowing expressions that show both confidence and clarity. For example, at the B1 level, you might say, "I am tired today because I worked a lot." This sentence is correct, but it is very simple. At the C2 level, you can say the same idea in a more advanced way. For example, "I am exhausted after such a demanding day at work." Or, "I feel drained after handling so many challenging tasks today." The meaning is the same, but the advanced versions show more variety, emotion, and stronger vocabulary. This is the first step we will practice together, taking simple sentences and making them advanced and fluent. Let's practice now. I will give you a basic sentence, and you try to make it more advanced. Here is the first one. "The food was good." How can we make it sound more advanced? Here are some options. "The food was delicious." "The meal was absolutely delightful." "The flavors were exquisite, and every bite felt satisfying." See how each version sounds stronger, more expressive, and more advanced. This is the kind of practice that will take you from B1 to C2. Each time we upgrade a sentence, we move from simple vocabulary to richer, more advanced vocabulary. Right now, I want you to pause the video, repeat after me, and then try to create your own advanced version of the sentence. Let's try another one together. The basic sentence is, "I don't like this movie." At the advanced C2 level, you could say, "This movie doesn't appeal to me. I found this film rather uninteresting. The storyline failed to capture my attention." Do you hear the difference? Each of these versions is more expressive, clearer, and closer to the way advanced English speakers naturally talk. This kind of practice, where you upgrade basic sentences step by step, is exactly what helps you grow from B1 to C2. Now, let's talk about another important area, connectors. At the B1 level, many learners use only very simple connectors like and, but, because. These are correct, but they are basic. At the C2 level, however, you should use more advanced connectors such as although, nevertheless, moreover, consequently on the other hand. These connectors act like bridges. They help your ideas flow smoothly and make your speech sound more logical and professional.
For example,
B1 sentence. I wanted to go out, but it was raining. C2 sentence. Although I wanted to go out, the heavy rain kept me indoors. Another option. I wanted to go out. Nevertheless, the weather forced me to stay inside. See how the meaning is the same, but the advanced connectors make the sentences richer and more natural? Let's practice together. Repeat the simple sentence after me. I stayed home because I was tired. Now let's upgrade it. I decided to stay home since I was feeling exhausted. I stayed home as I was completely worn out after work. I remained at home, for fatigue had overwhelmed me by the end of the day. Notice how each version is more advanced than the one before. This kind of step-by-step upgrading is the exact training that will help you climb toward the C2 level. Another important point: confidence. At the B1 level, many learners feel nervous about using new words. They are afraid of making mistakes. But at the C2 level, confidence is the key. You must be brave enough to try new vocabulary and advanced grammar structures in real conversations. Mistakes are not a problem. In fact, mistakes are your stepping stones toward fluency. For example, if you use a difficult word incorrectly, you might feel embarrassed in the moment. But the next time, you will remember it better, and very soon, that word will become a natural part of your speech. So, in this masterclass, I encourage you to practice loudly, without fear, and accept every mistake as progress. Now, let's do a short daily life practice exercise. Imagine you had a long day at school or at work. At the B1 level, you might simply say, "My day was busy." But let's push it to C2.
try saying,
My day was incredibly demanding, filled with non-stop activities. Today was overwhelming, with back-to-back responsibilities that left me little time to rest. It was a hectic day, packed with challenging tasks that required constant focus. Repeat each of these sentences after me slowly. Then, try to picture yourself saying them in a real conversation. The more you connect the words to your own life experiences, the faster you will improve. Finally, let's talk about rhythm and tone. Fluency is not only about vocabulary. It is also about how you deliver your sentences. The rhythm of your speech and the tone of your voice show your confidence, and they help listeners understand you better. At the B1 level, many learners speak word by word. They pause too often, and this breaks the natural flow of their sentences. At the C2 level, however, you need to learn how to speak in chunks. This means linking words together and speaking in smooth groups of words, not one at a time. For example, if you say each word separately, it sounds like, I went to the store. But if you connect the words naturally, it becomes, I went to the store. Now, let's take it even further with an advanced version. I went to the store to pick up some essentials before dinner. Do you notice the difference? When you speak in rhythm, the sentence flows naturally and smoothly. This kind of fluency often comes from shadowing practice. Shadowing means you listen to a native speaker, then repeat exactly what they say, copying their tone, rhythm, and speed. We will continue practicing this technique throughout the lesson. One of the clearest signs that you are moving from B1 to C2 is the ability to describe things with precision and detail. At the B1 level, you usually describe things in simple, broad terms. For example, you might say, the weather is nice. But at the C2 level, you must add more color and detail.
For example,
the weather today is pleasantly warm, with a gentle breeze that makes it comfortable to walk outside. Or, the day feels refreshing, the air is crisp, and the sunlight is perfectly balanced, not too harsh, not too weak. Notice how these advanced sentences paint a picture in the listener's mind. At higher levels, English is not just about being correct. It's about creating images and emotions through your words. Let's practice together. The basic sentence is, my room is small. At an advanced level, you could say, My room is compact but cozy, with enough space for everything I need. Though the room is modest in size, it feels warm and inviting because of its simple design. It may be small, but it has a charming atmosphere that makes me feel comfortable every time I step in.
Pause here.
Repeat these sentences after me. Now, create your own advanced description of a small space in your life, maybe your room, your office, or even your favorite cafe. Another area that defines C2 fluency is the use of idiomatic expressions. At the B1 level, many learners use only direct, literal words. But at C2, idioms, collocations, and phrasal verbs are essential for sounding natural and fluent.
For example,
instead of "I am very tired," you could say, "I am worn out," or "I'm completely drained." Instead of "it's easy," you could say, "it's a piece of cake." Instead of "I don't understand," you could say, "I can't make sense of it." These kinds of expressions bring your English closer to the way native speakers actually talk every day. Let's practice some idioms together. Repeat slowly after me. After working for 8 hours, I was completely wiped out. Understanding advanced grammar at first can feel like climbing a mountain, but with practice, it becomes easier. I was over the moon when I passed my exam with high marks. Each of these examples replaces a simple B1 sentence with a colorful and advanced idiomatic expression. I encourage you to make a list of your favorite idioms and practice using them in your daily conversations. This will make your speech more lively and expressive. Now let's move forward and talk about nuance. At the B1 level, learners often rely on just 1 or 2 basic words to express themselves. But at C2, you need to know synonyms, different words that carry slightly different meanings or feelings. For example, let's take the word happy. At the B1 level, you might simply say, "I am happy." But at the C2 level, you can choose from many words, depending on the situation: joyful, delighted, thrilled, ecstatic, content, pleased. Each of these words means happy, but they carry different shades of meaning, from calm satisfaction, content, to extreme excitement, ecstatic. The word thrilled means very excited, while the word content means quietly satisfied. Learning these small but important differences will make your English richer, clearer, and more precise. Let's practice some synonyms for happy together. Repeat after me. I was delighted to meet her after such a long time. He felt content after finishing his project successfully. She was ecstatic when she heard the good news. Now it's your turn. Try to imagine different situations from your own life and then use a specific synonym for happy. Instead of always saying happy, push yourself to pick the exact word that fits the situation best. This small step will move you closer to advanced fluency. Another important skill for the C2 level is paraphrasing. In real conversations, sometimes you forget a word, or maybe you don't know the exact word at all. At the B1 level, this often causes pauses, hesitation, or silence. But at the C2 level, you need to learn how to express the same idea in another way, smoothly, and without breaking your flow.
for example,
If you forget the word restaurant, you can say, "the place where people go to eat food." If you forget the word generous, you can say, "someone who gives a lot and is very kind." This way, you keep talking naturally even when your vocabulary is not perfect. Paraphrasing is a survival tool for advanced speakers. Let's do a short exercise together. Imagine you forget the word expensive. You could say, "It costs a lot of money," or "the price is very high." Imagine you forget the word library. You could say, "the place where people borrow books." Imagine you forget the word shy. You could say, "someone who feels nervous when speaking to others." This kind of practice trains your brain to keep speaking without stopping, and that is one of the strongest signs of true fluency. Now, let's talk about register. Register means adjusting your language depending on the situation. At the B1 level, Learners often use the same words whether they are speaking to friends, colleagues, or strangers. But at the C2 level, you need to know how to change your tone and style depending on where you are and who you are talking to. For example, with a friend, you might say, "Hey, what's up?" In a job interview, you would say, "Good morning. It's a pleasure to meet you." Both are greetings, but they are correct in different situations. Let's practice with an example. Imagine you are inviting someone to dinner. Informal. Want to grab dinner tonight? With a friend. Formal. Would you like to join me for dinner this evening? In an email to a colleague. Both sentences mean the same thing, but the register is different. Try practicing this skill by taking one sentence and saying it in 3 different ways: informal, neutral, and formal. The ability to shift smoothly between these styles is what makes you sound truly advanced. One more important difference between B1 and C2 speakers is flexibility with grammar. At the B1 level, learners often rely on basic tenses such as present simple, past simple, and future simple. These are correct, but they're limited. At the C2 level, you need to feel comfortable using a wide range of tenses and structures. For example, a basic sentence might be, "I lived here for 5 years." A more advanced version could be, "I've been living here for the past 5 years, and during this time, I've learned so much about the culture." The meaning is similar, but the advanced version shows deeper grammar knowledge and gives more detail. Let's practice with another sentence. The basic version is, "I studied English last year." Now, let's try advanced versions together. I was studying English throughout last year, focusing mainly on speaking practice. I have studied English for several years, but last year I made the most progress. I had been studying English for months before I finally felt confident speaking. Do you see the difference? Each version uses a different tense, adds more detail, and sounds more advanced. Earlier, we practiced different tenses. Here are a few advanced examples again. I was studying English throughout last year, focusing on my pronunciation and fluency. I have been studying English for several months before I decided to take an advanced course. I have studied English continuously since last year, and it has transformed the way I communicate. Each version uses a different tense and a different structure, but all of them show higher control over grammar. This is what moves you closer to C2 fluency. Another big step towards C2 fluency is mastering conditionals. At the B1 level, learners usually use only simple conditionals like, "If it rains, I will stay home." But at the C2 level, you also need to use more advanced conditionals, such as the third conditional and mixed conditionals. These allow you to talk about unreal situations, regrets, and hypotheticals smoothly. For example, if I had studied harder last year, I would have passed the exam with flying colors. If I were more confident, I would speak in front of large audiences without hesitation. Now, let's practice together. Repeat after me. If I had woken up earlier, I wouldn't have missed the bus. If I were living in London right now, I would be practicing my English every single day with native speakers. If I had taken that opportunity, my life would look completely different today. These sentences may feel a bit difficult at first, but once you master them, they will give you incredible flexibility in expressing complex ideas in English. Apart from grammar, you also need to build an advanced vocabulary for emotions and abstract ideas. At the B1 level, you might say something simple like, "I am sad." But at the C2 level, you could say, "I feel disheartened by the outcome. Her words left me feeling deeply discouraged." Instead of saying, "I am angry," you could say, "I am outraged by this unfair situation. His rude behavior left me utterly frustrated." Do you notice the difference? These advanced words carry stronger emotions and more precise meanings. This is exactly the type of vocabulary that will make your English stand out. Let's practice synonyms together. I'll give you a simple word, and you try to replace it with a more advanced synonym. The word is big. Instead of big, you could use huge, enormous, massive, gigantic, tremendous, immense. The word is small. Instead of small, you could use tiny, miniature, compact, minute, modest, delicate. The word is good. Instead of good, you could use excellent, outstanding, remarkable, impressive, exceptional. Now, let's build some sentences together. Repeat after me slowly. The building was enormous, towering over everything around it. Her performance was exceptional. Every detail was carefully polished. He gave a minute description of the event, covering even the smallest details. Practicing in this way will help you naturally replace basic words with advanced synonyms step by step until it becomes a habit. By practicing in this way, you begin to internalize synonyms. That means you don't have to think too hard about them. Your brain will naturally start replacing simple words with stronger, more advanced alternatives when you speak. Another important area we need to focus on is advanced discourse markers. Discourse markers are special words or phrases that help you organize your thoughts and connect your ideas smoothly. At the B1 level, many learners use only basic markers like first, then finally. These are correct, but they are very simple. At the C2 level, you should use more advanced expressions such as on the contrary, as a matter of fact, in other words, to put it simply, having said that, in contrast, by and large, all things considered. These markers make your speech sound logical, structured, and professional. Let's practice with a few examples. Instead of saying, I like coffee, I don't like tea, you could say, I enjoy coffee. On the contrary, tea has never appealed to me. Another one, she is usually quiet. As a matter of fact, she prefers to listen more than she talks. And one more, the movie was long and slow. Having said that, the acting was truly outstanding. Repeat these sentences after me and notice how they immediately give your English a polished and advanced feel. Now, let's take a step into real-life practice. Imagine you are giving your opinion in a meeting. At the B1 level, you might say, I think this idea is good. At the C2 level, you could say, in my opinion, this proposal holds great potential for success, provided we implement it effectively. Or, from my perspective, this suggestion could be highly beneficial if we consider the practical challenges involved. These advanced forms not only show your opinion, but also your critical thinking and confidence. That is exactly what you need to move towards C2 fluency. Let's practice together. Repeat after me. From my point of view, this approach is more efficient than the one we used before. As far as I am concerned, developing strong communication skills is essential for career growth. In my view, consistent practice is the only path to mastering advanced English. Say these sentences with confidence and imagine yourself in a real conversation, maybe at work, in school, or in a discussion where your opinion really matters. That's how you bring advanced fluency into daily life. Finally, let's talk about one of the most powerful skills at the C2 level, storytelling. At the B1 level, many learners tell stories in short, simple sentences, often repeating the same structure. For example, yesterday, I went to the park. I met my friend. We talked. Then we went home. This version is correct, but it sounds flat and uninteresting. At the C2 level, your story should be richer, more engaging, and full of detail. You need to use descriptive words, time expressions, and smooth transitions to bring your story to life. For example, yesterday afternoon, I happened to meet an old friend at the park. We ended up having a long, engaging conversation about our lives, and by the time we finished, the sun was already setting, painting the sky with beautiful colors. Do you hear the difference? This advanced version is alive and interesting. It pulls the listener into the experience and makes them feel like they are right there with you. This is the kind of storytelling that will make your English sound natural, fluent, and truly C2 level. Let's practice storytelling together. Start with the simple version. I cooked dinner last night. Now, let's upgrade it. Last night, I prepared a homemade dinner with fresh ingredients, and the aroma filled the entire kitchen as I cooked. Another upgrade. Yesterday evening, I decided to cook a warm, comforting dinner. The process of chopping vegetables and stirring the pot felt surprisingly relaxing after a long day. Do you hear the difference? Each version adds life, color, and rhythm. This is the storytelling skill you need at the advanced level. Another key element at the C2 level is the ability to express subtle opinions and emotions. At B1, you may simply say, I like this book. At C2, you can add layers. I truly enjoyed this book because the author managed to capture emotions in such a realistic way. I found this novel deeply moving. The characters felt so alive that I almost forgot they weren't real. Advanced English gives you the power to show not only what you feel, but also why you feel it, and to do so in a sophisticated way. Here's an exercise. Repeat after me. I appreciated the movie not only because of its story, but also because of the way it made me reflect on my own life. I enjoyed the music mainly due to its emotional depth and the way it connected with my memories. I admired the speech since it combined clarity with a powerful message that stayed with me afterward. These sentences go beyond simple opinions. They give reasons, explanations, and emotions, all signs of advanced fluency. Another important C2 skill is the ability to hedge your opinions politely. At the B1 level, learners often sound too direct, saying things like, "You are wrong." But at the advanced level, you can soften your language and show respect, even when you disagree. For example, I see your point, but I'm not entirely convinced. That's an interesting perspective. However, I would look at it differently. I understand where you're coming from, though I'm not sure I completely agree. This type of language is essential in academic, professional, and social contexts. Let's practice polite disagreement. Repeat after me. I respect your opinion, but I would like to offer a different point of view. You raise a valid concern. However, I believe there might be another solution. That's certainly a good idea. Although, I wonder if we should also consider other possibilities. Notice how these sentences keep the conversation positive while still expressing your own view. This ability is one of the hallmarks of C2 communication. Now, let's turn to phrasal verbs and collocations. At the B1 level, you may know some basic phrasal verbs such as wake up, sit down, turn off. At the C2 level, you should use more complex and natural phrasal verbs. For example, bring up to mention a topic, come across to find something unexpectedly, run out of to have no more left, carry on with to continue. Native speakers use these all the time, and mastering them makes your English sound natural and advanced. Let's practice with some sentences. Repeat after me. During the meeting, she brought up an important issue we had all overlooked. I came across an old photograph while cleaning my drawer yesterday. We ran out of milk this morning, so I had to go to the store. Despite the difficulties, he carried on with his research until he found a solution. By practicing these, you'll gradually replace basic expressions with real, native-like language. Another example. I came across an interesting article while browsing online. And one more. We ran out of milk this morning, so I had to go to the store. Try using these phrasal verbs in your daily life until they become natural. Then challenge yourself to learn a few new ones each week. In addition to phrasal verbs, collocations, words that naturally go together are another mark of C2 fluency. For example, we say make a decision, not do a decision. We say strong coffee, not powerful coffee. Learning collocations makes your speech smooth and natural. Here are some common examples. Take responsibility. Deeply concerned. Fast asleep. Heavy rain. Crystal clear. Let's practice. Repeat after me. He made a quick decision after hearing all the facts. I was deeply concerned about her health. The explanation was crystal clear, and everyone understood it immediately. Notice how natural these combinations feel. Practice them in sentences every day, and soon they will become automatic. At the C2 level, you should also be able to shift between concrete and abstract ideas with ease. At the B1 level, learners often stick to very concrete language, saying things like, I like dogs. I want a new phone. At the C2 level, you need to handle abstract concepts such as freedom, success, identity, or responsibility. For example, instead of I like learning English, you could say, for me, learning English represents a pathway to freedom, connection, and growth. Notice how the second version goes beyond the action itself and touches on a bigger idea. This is what advanced speakers do. They link personal experiences to universal concepts. Let's practice moving from concrete to abstract. I need money. Financial independence is essential to living with dignity and making free choices. I want friends. Human connection plays a crucial role in our emotional well-being, and I value building relationships that bring meaning to life. By practicing like this, you train yourself to see beyond the surface and connect your English to deeper ideas. Another important step is learning to use metaphors. Native speakers often use them to make their speech more powerful and memorable. For example, instead of he is very busy, you might say, he has a lot on his plate. Instead of she is nervous, you could say, she has butterflies in her stomach. These phrases bring life to your language. At the C2 level, mastering metaphors makes your English sound artistic and expressive. Let's practice some metaphors together. Repeat after me. Learning a language is like planting a tree. It takes time, care, and patience, but eventually it grows strong. Her smile was like sunshine, warming everyone around her. Life is a journey, and every challenge we face is just another step along the path. Now, try to create your own metaphors about your daily life. This exercise will help you sound more vivid, persuasive, and truly advanced. Emphasis, rhetorical questions, and final practice, simple and extended version. At the C2 level, you learn how to choose words that show strength or softness when you want them. At B1, many learners use only very for emphasis. This is very important. At C2, you can use stronger words or gentler words, depending on what you mean. Stronger emphasis when you want to be loud or clear. Extremely, absolutely,
utterly,
incredibly, remarkably,
tremendously.
Subtle, softer words when you want to be gentle or careful.
Slightly,
Somewhat, relatively, fairly, kind of. Practice these with me. Repeat each sentence out loud and feel the difference. This is absolutely essential if you want to succeed. I was utterly shocked by what I saw. Now try soft emphasis. The movie was somewhat disappointing, though still enjoyable. I felt slightly nervous before the interview, but it quickly passed. Being able to move between strong and soft words lets you say exactly how you feel. Rhetorical questions make your speech engaging. Rhetorical questions get listeners thinking and make your speech more natural and persuasive. At B1, people usually make direct statements. At C2, add rhetorical questions to create rhythm and connection. Try these aloud. Isn't it fascinating how quickly technology changes our lives? Don't we all wish we had more time to do the things we love? Isn't it amazing how small changes in your routine can completely transform your day? Don't you think learning English opens the door to countless opportunities? Who wouldn't want to sound natural and confident in another language? Rhetorical questions help you sound confident and keep listeners interested. Real-life upgrade exercise. Tell it with detail. Start simple, then upgrade step by step. Simple. I read a book. It was interesting. Upgrade to C2. I recently finished a fascinating novel that explored themes of love, loss, and personal growth. The story was deeply moving, and I found myself reflecting on my own experiences as I turned each page. Notice how the upgraded version has more detail, themes, feelings. Emotion, deeply moving. Depth, reflection about yourself. Try this with your favorite book, movie, or event. Begin with one short sentence, then add time words, reasons, feelings, and images until it sounds alive. Quick practice routine, easy and daily. Do these small exercises every day, 10 to 15 minutes total. Emphasis drill, 2 minutes say 2 strong and 2 soft sentences from above. Rhetorical drill, 2 minutes ask 3 rhetorical questions aloud. Story upgrade, 4 to 6 minutes take 1 simple sentence about your day and upgrade it into a short, vivid paragraph. Record and listen, 2 to 3 minutes record yourself, then replay to notice rhythm and tone. Small, regular practice builds big results. Final wrap-up, what moving from B1 to C2 really means. Moving from B1 to C2 isn't just about learning new grammar or new words. It's about choosing the right strength of words, emphasis versus subtlety. Engaging listeners with rhetorical questions and good rhythm. Adding detail and emotion so your speech paints a picture. Practicing daily with short, focused drills. Every time you add a little detail, try a new idiom, hedge an opinion politely, or use a metaphor, you're building real fluency. Keep practicing, be curious, and don't be afraid of mistakes. Mistakes are part of the journey. Advanced emphasis in sentence structure. At the advanced level, emphasis isn't only about vocabulary, it's also about how you structure your sentences. At B1, learners usually use a simple subject, verb, object order, like, I like this idea. At C2, you can rearrange sentences for style, impact, and emphasis. What I really like about this idea is its simplicity. This idea, I must say, appeals to me the most. It is the creativity of this idea that makes it stand out. These variations show control over word order and highlight different parts of your message. Advanced English isn't just about what you say, it's about how you shape it. Practice these aloud. What inspires me the most is the effort you put into your work. It was the kindness in her voice that comforted me. What makes this place unforgettable is the warmth of its people. By practicing, you'll learn to emphasize exactly what you want, giving your speech variety and strength. Mastering reported speech. At B1, learners often use direct quotes. She said, I am tired. At C2, reported speech is used naturally in conversation, essays, or professional writing. She mentioned that she was exhausted after the long journey. He explained that he had been working on the project for months. Reported speech shows maturity in language use, as it lets you share information clearly and smoothly. Practice examples. Direct. He said, I like this plan. Reported. He said that he liked the plan. Direct. She said, I will help you tomorrow. Reported. She promised that she would help me the following day. Direct. They said, we are leaving now. Reported. They told me they were leaving at that moment. Repeat slowly until it feels natural. The more you use reported speech, the more professional and advanced your English will sound. Building arguments and persuasive language. At B1, learners often just state their opinion. I think learning English is important. At C2, you should back your opinion with reasons, evidence, and structure. I strongly believe learning English is essential as it opens countless doors to education, career opportunities, and cultural exchange. In my view, English fluency is not just about communication. It's about connecting with the world on a deeper level. Persuasive language shows that you can think critically and express ideas with conviction. Practice sentences. In my opinion, practicing English daily is far more effective than studying only once in a while. I believe technology has made learning languages more accessible than ever before. There is no doubt that consistent practice is the key to mastering English. Try using this type of language in debates, discussions, or personal journaling. Structured opinions build fluency and confidence. Advanced linking devices for cause and effect. At B1, learners often use simple connectors. I didn't sleep well, so I am tired. At C2, you can use more sophisticated expressions. Due to a restless night, I am feeling exhausted today. As a result of staying up late, I found it difficult to concentrate in class. Owing to the heavy traffic, I arrived later than expected. These advanced linking devices make your speech more professional, logical, and natural. Advanced cause and effect expressions. At the advanced level, learning how to show cause and effect makes your English smoother and more professional. At B1, you might say something simple like, "The project was late because of poor planning." At C2, you can use more advanced expressions such as a consequence of poor planning, the project faced serious delays. Owing to his dedication, he achieved remarkable success. Because of the sudden rain, the event had to be postponed. Notice how these advanced versions sound more natural, formal, and precise. Practice aloud. As a consequence of poor planning, the project faced serious delays. Owing to his dedication, he achieved remarkable success. Because of the sudden rain, the event had to be postponed. Practicing these structures regularly will help you sound natural in both professional and casual conversations. Contrast and concession. Another important skill at C2 is showing contrast or concession. This allows you to express balanced, nuanced ideas. At B1, you might say, "I like it, but it's expensive." At C2, you can upgrade it with structures like, "Although I like it, the price is too high." "I like it. Nevertheless, I can't afford it right now." "While I do enjoy it, I must admit it is far too costly." These advanced forms make your English sound more thoughtful and sophisticated. Practice contrast sentences. Although the film was long, it was captivating from beginning to end. While she is young, she has already achieved incredible success. The weather was cold. Nevertheless, we decided to go hiking. The more you use contrast structures, the more flexible and advanced your English will become. Rhythm and fluency practice. Fluency is not just about grammar or words, it's also about flow and rhythm. At B1, learners often pause too much, saying, I went to the park." At C2, you learn to group words into natural chunks. "I went to the park yesterday afternoon, and I had a wonderful time walking among the trees." One of the best ways to practice this is through shadowing exercises. Listen to a native speaker. Repeat exactly what they say, matching their rhythm and tone. Shadowing builds muscle memory for natural speech and helps you speak with the flow of a native speaker. Subtle differences in meaning. At B1, learners often rely on a small set of words like good, bad, nice, big, small. At C2, you must choose the exact word to match the context. For example, instead of always saying bad, you could use terrible, awful, dreadful, appalling, unpleasant, disappointing, unacceptable. Each word has a slightly different meaning. Awful might describe something emotionally negative. Unacceptable works better in formal or professional situations. Practice examples. Simple. The service was bad. Advanced. The service was dreadful and it completely ruined the experience. Advanced. The service was unacceptable for a restaurant of that standard. Advanced. The service was disappointing given how highly it had been recommended. Repeat these aloud, and then try creating your own upgraded versions. Experimenting will help you pick the perfect word naturally. Advanced adjectives and adverbs. At B1, you might say, she runs fast. At C2, you can expand your description to add strength, precision, and emotion. She runs incredibly fast with remarkable strength and stamina. She runs astonishingly quickly, leaving everyone else far behind. Using advanced adjectives and adverbs makes your English more vivid, precise, and impressive. Key takeaways from this section. Cause and effect. Use expressions like as a consequence of, owing to, because of to sound smooth and professional. Contrast and concession. Use although, nevertheless, while to show balanced thinking. Rhythm and fluency. Practice shadowing to speak in natural word groups. Subtle word meanings. Replace simple words with precise alternatives. Advanced adjectives/adverbs. Add strength, clarity, and color to your speech. Using stronger adjectives and adverbs. At C2, adding strong adjectives and adverbs makes your English more vivid, expressive, and professional. For example, instead of saying, the room was big, you could say, the room was spacious and elegantly designed. The room was impressively large with high ceilings that gave it an airy feel. Notice how these upgrades paint a picture for the listener. Practice aloud. The speech was remarkably inspiring. He worked tirelessly to finish the project. The city was breathtakingly beautiful at night. Try to add at least one advanced adjective or adverb every time you describe something in English. This habit steadily raises your level towards C2 fluency. Using passive voice effectively. At B1, learners mostly use active sentences. The company hired him. At C2, you also need to know when to use the passive voice. He was hired by the company. The meeting was postponed due to bad weather. The novel was translated into 20 languages. Passive voice is useful when you want to focus on the action or result, not the person doing it. Practice passive sentences. The decision was made after careful consideration. The problem was solved with teamwork and patience. The bridge was built more than 100 years ago. Try switching between active and passive until you feel comfortable using both. This flexibility is key to advanced grammar. Advanced relative clauses. Relative clauses help you combine ideas smoothly and add detail without repetition. At B1, you might say, I have a friend. She lives in London. At C2, you can say, I have a friend who lives in London. I have a friend who has been living in London for several years, working as a teacher. Other examples. This is the book that inspired me to study literature. The man whose car was stolen reported it to the police immediately. Practice relative clauses. I admire people who are always willing to help others. This is the place where we first met. She spoke to the teacher who encouraged her to keep studying. Mastering relative clauses allows you to express richer ideas in a single sentence, a major sign of C2 fluency. Advanced connectors. At B1, you might only use because so. At C2, use more sophisticated connectors. Owing to, in light of, with regard to, in spite of, notwithstanding, provided that. Examples. Owing to the rain, the event was rescheduled. With regard to your question, I believe we should look at the data first. In spite of the difficulties, they managed to succeed. Provided that we all contribute, the project will be a success. Notwithstanding his lack of experience, he handled the situation very well. Using these connectors makes your English formal, polished, and versatile. Practice connectors aloud. In spite of the difficult circumstances, they managed to finish on time. Provided that everyone participates, the plan will work smoothly. Notwithstanding the challenges, she performed exceptionally well. Practical fluency exercise. To practice everything together. Describe a place or object using at least one strong adjective or adverb. Use passive voice in 1 or 2 sentences about something that happened to you. Include a relative clause to combine ideas. Add a connector to show cause, effect, contrast, or condition. Example, C2 version. The park, which has been beautifully maintained for years, was visited by hundreds of people yesterday. In spite of the rain, the event went ahead as planned. The experience was incredibly enjoyable and left everyone feeling refreshed. Practicing this way builds vocabulary, grammar flexibility, and fluent speech, all essential for C2. Advanced storytelling. Imagine you are describing your weekend. At B1, you might say, I went shopping. I bought clothes. I met my friend. At C2, you can make it flow like a story with details, connectors, and varied grammar. Over the weekend, I went shopping and treated myself to some new clothes. Later, I met a friend, and we had an engaging conversation over coffee about our future plans. Notice how the advanced version combines ideas into smooth sentences, adds details about what you did, uses connectors like and later, varies grammar structures to make it interesting. Practice tip: start with a basic version of your day, then expand it step by step, adding details, connectors, and descriptive words until it flows like a story. Expressing opinions precisely. At B1, opinions are simple. I think it's good, or I don't like it. At C2, you can express ideas with precision and nuance. In my view, this is a highly effective solution to the problem. I would argue that this approach is not the most practical. From my perspective, the idea holds merit, though it requires further development. These structures show critical thinking and professional expression. Practice aloud. As far as I'm concerned, consistent practice is the most important element of language learning. I am convinced that vocabulary building is the key to advanced fluency. I would argue that confidence is just as important as grammar when it comes to communication. Try using these expressions when giving your opinions in English. They will make your speech sound more advanced immediately. Building contrast. At B1, learners often use but to show contrast. At C2, you can use advanced alternatives. Nevertheless, on the other hand, at the same time, conversely, even so. Examples. I was tired. Nevertheless, I completed the project. I enjoy city life. On the other hand, I sometimes miss the peace of the countryside. The task was challenging. Even so, we managed to succeed. Practice aloud. She was nervous before the presentation. Nevertheless, she spoke with great confidence. He is often quiet. On the other hand, he can be very funny once you know him. The weather was bad. Even so, we decided to go ahead with the trip. These phrases give your English rhythm, sophistication, and variety, making it more natural. Advanced noun phrases. At B1, sentences are simple. It is a problem, or he is a teacher. At C2, you can expand your noun phrases to add detail and clarity. It is a serious environmental problem affecting millions of people. He is an experienced language teacher with more than 10 years of classroom practice. Adding these details makes your sentences richer and more informative, which is a hallmark of C2 English. Practice tip: whenever you describe something or someone, add details, qualities, or numbers to make your sentences stronger and more precise. Advanced comparisons. At B1, comparisons are usually simple, like, this course is harder than the last one. At C2, you can make comparisons more precise and sophisticated. This course is much more challenging than the one I took last year. The view from the mountain was just as breathtaking as the photos promised. The new policy is not nearly as effective as the old one. Practice tip: Repeat these sentences aloud. Then try making your own comparisons using much more, just as, not nearly as far more. This will make your English more accurate and natural. Inversion for emphasis. At B1, sentences follow a simple order. I had never seen such beauty before. At C2, you can use inversion to make your sentences elegant and formal. Never had I seen such beauty before. Rarely do I go out on weekdays. Only after failing several times did he finally succeed. Inversion is not common in casual conversation, but it is excellent for writing, presentations, and formal speaking. Practice aloud. Never have I been so inspired by a teacher. Seldom do we realize how much progress we are making until we look back. Only after trying many times did she achieve success. Advanced conditional structures. At B1, learners usually know first and second conditionals. If it rains, I will stay home. At C2, you should also use mixed conditionals, which connect past events with present or future results. If I had studied medicine, I would be a doctor now. If I hadn't missed the train, I would be at the office already. These conditionals show you can think across different time frames, which is a mark of advanced English. Practice aloud. If I had learned English earlier, I would be more fluent now. If she had joined the company, she would be managing the team today. If I had taken that opportunity, my life would look completely different. Advanced question forms. At B1, questions are simple. Why is this important? At C2, you can ask more thoughtful and sophisticated questions. To what extent is this relevant in today's world? In what ways can this strategy improve our results? How might this decision affect our long-term goals? Practice aloud. To what extent can daily practice improve fluency? In what ways does vocabulary influence confidence? How might advanced grammar structures change the way people perceive your English? Try using these advanced questions with friends, teachers, or colleagues to sound more fluent. Advanced expressions of time. At B1, learners use simple phrases like, I will finish it soon. At C2, you can expand your language with phrases that show time more precisely. In the long run, consistent practice always pays off. From now on, I will dedicate at least 30 minutes a day to improving my English. In the meantime, I will review all my notes. At the last minute, we decided to submit the project early. These expressions make your English more advanced, natural, and fluent. Using time expressions. At B1, you might say, I will finish it soon. At C2, you can use advanced time expressions to make your English flow naturally. Sooner or later, your hard work will show results. In the meantime, keep practicing every day to stay sharp. At the last minute, he decided to change his presentation. Practice tip. Use these phrases when talking about your daily activities. They give your English rhythm, variety, and natural flow. Describing goals. At B1, a simple goal might be, I want to be fluent. At C2, you can expand your goals with detail and purpose. My ultimate goal is to achieve fluency in English so that I can participate in international discussions with confidence and ease. In the long run, I aim to master advanced vocabulary and expressions that will allow me to express myself with precision and elegance. Exercise. Take your own goals and try expanding them like this. It helps your English and strengthens motivation. Handling uncertainty and speculation. At B1, you might say, maybe he is late. At C2, you can say it in more advanced ways. He might have been delayed by traffic. It's possible that he lost track of time. He could well be running behind schedule. Practice aloud. She may have forgotten to check her messages. It's quite possible that the event will be postponed. They could well be considering other options at this point. Using speculative phrases makes your English flexible, precise, and natural. Using cleft sentences for emphasis. At B1, you might say, I enjoyed the movie. At C2, cleft sentences highlight important parts of your message. What I really enjoyed was the movie soundtrack. It was her determination that inspired me the most. Practice aloud. What surprised me was how quickly I improved after daily practice. It was his positive attitude that motivated the whole team. What I appreciate most is your willingness to keep learning. Cleft sentences add variety and emphasis to your speech, making it more advanced. Agreeing and disagreeing diplomatically. At B1, you might simply say, I agree or I don't agree. At C2, you can express agreement or disagreement more politely and thoughtfully. I completely agree with your point, as it highlights the importance of practice. I agree to some extent, though I think there are other factors to consider. I'm not entirely convinced, but I see where you're coming from. Tip: practicing these phrases helps you participate in discussions professionally and respectfully. Expanding noun phrases. One way to sound advanced in English is to expand your noun phrases. This means adding details about people, things, or experiences to make your sentences richer without making them too complicated. For example, she is a highly respected professor of linguistics at a leading university. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to study abroad. He has an impressive collection of rare and valuable books. Notice how extra details make the sentences more interesting and professional. Practice tip: think about your life, your job, your hobbies, or your experiences. Try expanding simple noun phrases like, my friend who is an experienced photographer and travels the world. My car, a sleek black sedan with advanced safety features. The more details you add, the richer your English becomes. Advanced modal verbs. At B1, you might only use simple modal verbs. Can, must, should. At C2, you can use modal verbs in different tenses and to show possibility, regret, criticism, or speculation. Examples: I could have studied harder, but I didn't. You should have told me earlier. He might have forgotten the meeting. Practice aloud. I could have joined the trip, but I chose to stay home. She should have apologized for her mistake. They might have taken the wrong train. Try using modal verbs in past, present, and future situations until it feels natural. Expressing probability and certainty. At B1, you might say simple phrases like, maybe he is right. At C2, you can use more precise phrases. It is highly likely that he is right. There is a strong possibility that he has already left. It is almost certain that the results will be announced tomorrow. These expressions make your English clear, formal, and confident. Practice aloud. It is quite possible that she will join us later. There is a high probability of rain this weekend. It is almost certain that technology will continue to transform education. Advanced responses to questions. Imagine someone asks, what do you think about learning languages? At B1, you might answer, it is good. At C2, you could say, in my opinion, learning languages is one of the most rewarding experiences a person can have. It not only opens doors to communication, but also expands cultural understanding and personal growth. Notice how the advanced version uses more vocabulary, adds details and reasoning, flows smoothly with connectors like not only but also. Practice tip: take questions about your daily life and try starting with a simple answer, then expanding it step by step. Advanced comparisons. At B1, comparisons are simple. She is taller than me, or this book is better. At C2, you can make comparisons more sophisticated and precise. She is significantly taller than I am, which makes her stand out in a crowd. This book is far more insightful than the previous one I read. You can also use advanced structures. The exam was not nearly as difficult as I had expected. The movie was nothing like the trailer suggested. It was far more complex. Practice tip: Take simple comparisons from your daily life and expand them using words like significantly, far more, not nearly as, nothing like, just as. By expanding noun phrases, using advanced modal verbs, expressing probability, giving detailed answers, and making sophisticated comparisons, your English will sound natural, professional, and closer to C2 fluency. Agreeing and disagreeing respectfully. At B1, you might say, I agree or I don't agree. At C2, you can express agreement or disagreement in a more balanced and respectful way. I totally agree that vocabulary is central to fluency. I agree to a certain degree, but I believe grammar is equally important. I can see your perspective, though I would interpret it differently. Practice tip. Using these expressions makes your English confident, thoughtful, and professional in discussions. Speaking in longer turns. At B1, learners often struggle to speak for more than a few sentences without pausing. At C2, you can structure your ideas for longer, clear speech using signposts. There are three main reasons why I believe practice is essential. Firstly, it builds confidence. Secondly, it helps vocabulary become automatic. And finally, it develops rhythm and flow, which are necessary for fluency. Practice example. There are several advantages to reading books in English. To begin with, it exposes you to new vocabulary. In addition, it helps you see grammar in context. And finally, it improves your imagination and creativity. Exercise. Pick a daily topic like food, hobbies, or study habits and try speaking in a structured way with signposts. This helps you speak confidently for longer periods. Using intensifiers and downtoners. At B1, you might simply say, I like it, or it is difficult. At C2, you can control the strength of your message with subtle words. Strong. I absolutely loved it. It is extremely demanding. Moderate. I really like it. It is fairly difficult. Gentle. I quite like it. It is somewhat challenging. Practice aloud. I absolutely loved the concert last night. The exam was fairly challenging, but I managed to do well. I'm rather interested in learning more about this topic. Using these small shifts makes your English precise, natural, and flexible. Answering questions with advanced fluency. At B1, a simple answer might be, it was good. At C2, you can expand your response using intensifiers, cleft sentences, and advanced vocabulary. My weekend was absolutely wonderful. I spent time with close friends, and we had a fascinating discussion about our future goals. What I really enjoyed was how relaxed and refreshing the whole atmosphere felt. Exercise. Practice giving detailed and expressive answers to common questions like, how was your weekend? Or, what did you do today? Expressing nuanced emotions. At B1, you might say, I am happy or I am sad. At C2, you can express shades of feeling. I am overjoyed by the news. I am deeply content with the results. I feel a sense of relief and satisfaction. Tip. Using more precise emotional vocabulary helps your English sound sophisticated and natural. By practicing polite agreement, structured speech, intensifiers, cleft sentences, and nuanced emotions, your English will become fluid, confident, and truly advanced, moving steadily towards C2 fluency. Expressing nuanced emotions. At B1, you might simply say, I am sad. At C2, you can express different levels of intensity and emotion. I felt heartbroken when I heard the story. I was a little down after the meeting didn't go well. I was thrilled to hear about her success. He was devastated after losing his job. She was slightly disappointed, but overall she remained hopeful. Practice tip. Choosing the exact emotion makes your English sound more precise, expressive, and advanced. Using indirectness and politeness. At B1, learners often speak very directly. Give me the book. At C2, you can soften your requests to sound polite and natural. Could you pass me the book, please? I was wondering if you could help me with this. Would you mind closing the window? Practice examples. Would it be possible for you to explain that again? I was wondering if we could discuss this tomorrow. Could you please let me know your opinion on this? Tip: polite forms are essential in professional, academic, and social situations. They show respect and sophistication, using formal and academic vocabulary. At B1, you might say, "The test was hard," or "I need to think about it." At C2, you can choose more precise and formal words. The exam proved to be particularly demanding. I need to reflect on this matter. He declined the offer. Practice examples. The results were satisfactory, but further analysis is required. We must evaluate the options before making a decision. She expressed her gratitude for the support she received. Tip: using formal verbs and nouns allows you to switch easily between casual and professional contexts. Mastering hedging language. Hedging makes your English cautious, careful, and nuanced, which is typical of advanced speakers. Instead of, "This is true," "This seems to be true," or "This is likely to be the case." Instead of, "Everyone agrees," "Most people would agree." Practice examples. It appears that students improve faster with regular practice. This method is likely to be effective in many situations. There seems to be a connection between reading and vocabulary growth. Tip: hedging is very useful in academic, professional, and research contexts. It shows awareness of nuance and prevents overgeneralization. By practicing nuanced emotions, polite requests, formal vocabulary, and hedging, your English will become precise, sophisticated, and truly advanced, moving you steadily towards C2 fluency. Using hedging language. Hedging language helps your speech sound careful, balanced, and advanced. At B1, you might say something simple like, "This is true." At C2, you can express the same idea more carefully and flexibly. "This seems to be true." "This is likely to be the case." Most people would agree. Hedging shows that you are aware of nuance and are not overgeneralizing. It is especially useful in academic, professional, and formal situations. Practice examples. It appears that students improve faster with regular practice. This method is likely to be effective in many situations. There seems to be a connection between reading and vocabulary growth. Using rhetorical devices. Parallelism. Parallelism is when you repeat similar sentence structures to create rhythm and emphasis. This makes your speech powerful, memorable, and professional. Examples. Practice builds confidence. Practice builds fluency. Practice builds success. She was determined to win, determined to succeed, and determined to never give up. To learn is to grow. To grow is to succeed. And to succeed is to inspire. Practice examples. We need patience. We need persistence. And we need passion to reach fluency. He studied every morning. He studied every afternoon. And he studied every night. These patterns help your English sound inspiring, polished, and advanced. Responding in real-life scenarios. Imagine you are in a job interview. At B1, you might say, "Because I need a job." At C2, you could say, "I am genuinely motivated to work here because your company values innovation, and I strongly believe my skills in communication and problem-solving would allow me to contribute meaningfully to your team." Notice how the advanced answer is polite, precise, and persuasive. Practicing this type of response will prepare you for real situations where advanced fluency matters. Summarizing complex information. At B1, learners often struggle to summarize. They might repeat details or leave out important points. At C2, you can condense long ideas clearly and concisely. Examples. instead of describing every detail of a meeting. In summary, the team agreed to extend the project deadline, allocate more resources, and schedule weekly updates. Instead of describing a movie in simple sentences. B1. The movie was about a boy. He had powers.
He fought bad people.
He won. C2. The movie followed the journey of a young boy with special powers who overcame challenges, defeated his enemies, and discovered his true identity. Practice tip. Summarize your day, a book, a movie, or even a lesson in just a few clear sentences. This builds precision, confidence, and fluency. Paraphrasing. Paraphrasing means saying the same idea in different ways. At B1, learners often repeat the same words. At C2, you can rephrase naturally to show flexibility. Example, someone says, "It's important to practice." Advanced responses. Yes, consistent practice is essential. Absolutely. Regular training makes all the difference. I agree. Nothing improves fluency more than daily repetition. Paraphrasing shows that your language is not limited and you can adapt to any situation. Practice examples. Take a simple sentence. I like reading books. Advanced versions. I really enjoy reading novels in my free time. Reading is one of my favorite pastimes. By practicing hedging, parallelism, summarizing, and paraphrasing, your English becomes more polished, flexible, and truly advanced. Paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is the ability to say the same idea in different ways. At B1, learners often repeat the same words. At C2, you can rephrase naturally to sound flexible and advanced. For example, instead of "I like reading books," you could say, "I really enjoy reading novels in my free time. Reading is one of my favorite pastimes. I find great pleasure in exploring different stories through books." Practice tip. Repeat these sentences, then try creating your own versions. The more you paraphrase, the more natural and advanced your English will sound. Using advanced transitions. At B1, learners often use simple connectors like then, next, or after that. At C2, you can use advanced transitions to make your speech or writing flow smoothly. Moving on. Furthermore, having said that, in contrast, for example, to put it differently, examples. In addition to building vocabulary, regular listening practice is equally important. Having said that, grammar cannot be ignored if you want to express yourself clearly. Practice examples. Moving on, let's discuss the importance of fluency in daily life. Furthermore, practice with native speakers can accelerate progress. In contrast, studying without speaking practice often leads to frustration. Using transitions like these makes your English logical, professional, and easy to follow, which is essential at C2 level. Advanced negation. At B1, learners usually say simple phrases like "I don't know" or "that's not good." At C2, you can use more subtle and precise forms of negation. "I'm not entirely sure about that." That doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. It's not uncommon to make mistakes in the beginning. Practice examples. "I'm not completely convinced by that argument." It doesn't mean we should give up. It just means we need a new approach. It's not unusual to feel nervous before speaking in public. These structures make your English gentle, precise, and natural, expressing certainty and doubt. At B1, learners may only say "I know" or "I don't know." At C2, you can express certainty or doubt elegantly. "I'm absolutely certain about this point. I have my doubts about that claim. I strongly suspect that practice is the missing key." Practice examples. "I'm fully confident that you will improve with practice." "I have serious doubts about the effectiveness of that method." "I strongly suspect that regular shadowing exercises can boost fluency." Using these expressions makes your speech persuasive, careful and natural in formal and informal conversations. Summary. At C2, you should practice paraphrasing to say ideas in different ways. Advanced transitions to guide your listeners smoothly. Advanced negation to sound subtle and precise. Expressing certainty and doubt with elegance. Mastering these skills will make your English sophisticated, natural, and highly fluent. Real-life exercise. Explaining why English is important. Imagine a colleague asks you why English is important. At B1, you might simply say, "It is important for jobs." At C2, you could expand your answer. English is vital in today's globalized world because it serves as a bridge between cultures, careers, and communities. Whether in professional contexts, academic environments, or personal connections, fluency in English creates opportunities that might otherwise remain out of reach. Notice how the C2 answer is structured, detailed, and advanced. Practicing answers like this every day will help you think and speak in a more complex way. Adapting your language to different audiences. At B1, learners often use the same style with everyone. At C2, you should adjust tone, vocabulary, and formality depending on who you're speaking to. Informal, friend, can you give me a hand with this? Neutral, colleague, could you help me with this, please? Formal, manager, I would greatly appreciate your assistance with this matter. Notice how each version is correct but appropriate for a different situation. This shows fluency and social intelligence with language, using humor, irony, and figurative expressions. At B1, learners often avoid humor. At C2, using playful language naturally is a sign of advanced fluency. Examples. Well, that's as clear as daylight. Better late than never. I was so hungry I could eat a horse. That test was a walk in the park compared to the last one. She always breaks the ice with a funny comment. These expressions make your English fun, natural, and engaging. Practice them often to connect easily with native speakers. Reflection and self-expression. At C2, you should be able to reflect on experiences and express yourself clearly and thoughtfully. This means explaining why something matters to you, sharing opinions with nuance, using advanced vocabulary, idioms, and sentence structures to express yourself. For example, instead of "I like reading," you could say, "I find reading deeply rewarding because it allows me to explore new ideas and understand different perspectives." Instead of "I am happy," you could say, "I feel genuinely fulfilled when I see progress in my language learning." Practicing reflection regularly will strengthen both your fluency and your ability to communicate with depth and sophistication. Summary of key C2 skills from this section. Expand simple answers with details and structure. Adapt your tone and formality for different audiences. Use humor, idioms, and figurative language naturally. Reflect on experiences with nuanced vocabulary and advanced grammar. By practicing these skills every day, your English will become rich, flexible, and fully fluent. Reflecting on your English journey. At B1, you might simply say, "I learned English." At C2, you can go deeper and reflect on your experience. Learning English has been one of the most transformative journeys of my life, teaching me not only new words but also new ways of thinking. This type of reflection makes your English meaningful, memorable, and personal. Exercise. What has English given you? B1 answer. It gave me knowledge. C2 answer. English has given me the chance to connect with people across the world, to learn about different cultures, and to see myself as part of a global community. Try reflecting on your own journey. This practice helps you develop emotional fluency alongside linguistic fluency. Introducing yourself to an international audience. At B1, you might say, "My name is Anna. I live in Spain. I like reading." At C2, you could expand your introduction. "My name is Anna, and I come from Spain. I have always been passionate about reading because it allows me to explore new ideas and cultures. I am especially interested in how literature connects people across borders. Notice the difference. The advanced version flows naturally, adds depth, and reveals personality. Motivation for reaching C2 fluency. Reaching C2 fluency takes time, patience, and daily effort. It doesn't happen overnight, but every small step counts. Learning new words, correcting mistakes, practicing advanced structures. Fluency is not just speaking perfect English. It is about communicating with confidence, clarity, and authenticity. Daily practice tips. Keep practicing every day. Use shadowing exercises to match native speaker rhythm. Expand your vocabulary continuously. Challenge yourself with advanced sentence structures. Reflect on your progress to develop emotional fluency. Remember, learning English is building a bridge to the world, new opportunities, and your own personal growth. Thank you for joining this advanced English fluency session. Keep practicing, stay motivated, and move step by step toward your goal of true English fluency.